A decade ago, my early in the year attendance activity consisted of me calling out names and asking, "What's your spirit animal?" As I would read through the list, students would correct me on mispronunciations and then either say pass or explain they were a raccoon because they stayed up all night and ate garbage. Then we'd move on to the lesson. But now we talk about a Patronus instead because we know a bunch of non-indigenous individuals in a room describing their spirit animals is insensitive at best. And when it comes to names, I don't simply call them out. I ask them, how would you like me to address you? And what pronouns do you use? Because when your job is teaching kids, you soak up all the trainings and strategies and studies and anecdotes you can find, looking for anything that will help you meet their Maslow's. And one day you will learn that students who have adults in their lives that affirm their sexual orientation and or gender identity are 50% less likely to attempt suicide. I learned that at 30. We teach these kids that at 11. That's a 19-year head start. A decade ago, I had one or maybe two students who identified as trans or non-binary. This year, I have about one or two per row. In one class, over a third of the students use pronouns that differ from the ones they were assigned at birth. In 2016, 0.6% of adults identified as trans or non-binary, and it all reminds me of that graph that shows that once folks stopped labeling left-handed people as evil, more left-handed people appeared in the world. Now that we've made it standard to start the year with names and pronouns, I encounter all kinds of ways to replace the antecedents. He, him, she, her, they, them, she, they, he, they, ze, zer, they, it. I checked in with the mental health specialist who works with trans youth, and they informed me that it is an actual pronoun the kids are using and not an attempt to make light of the situation or insult others, which was a surprise to me, but like I said, I'm 19 years behind the curve. But it's not always easy. I absent-mindedly misgender all the time. With over 200 students, I accidentally call kids by their birth names instead of their chosen names. I forget which name I'm allowed to call them in front of their friends and which name to use when I talk to their parents. One time, a student's name on our electronic gradebook didn't match the name of their school email account, which didn't match the name their parents called them, which didn't match the name their caseworker called them, which didn't match the name they told me to call them. Handling 5 different names was difficult, until I realized that it must be even more difficult being 5 different people over the past 2 years. There is a boundary around my empathy as I've never shared these feelings, questions, or realizations, so I don't really fully understand it. But in my time, I've learned that one of the cruelest acts is discrediting someone's existence just because you can't relate to it. When we were changing our email signatures, a 6th grader asked if we had to add our pronouns by our name. Another 6th grader replied, "If you add your pronouns, you normalize it, which helps trans and non-binary people feel more comfortable in sharing their pronouns." I learned that at 30. They learned it at 11. That's a 19-year head start.